Let's talk about something that comes up a lot in Christian dating, and that's how we discern if something is actually a red flag or a situation where grace, redemption, and forgiveness should come into play. Because let's be real, none of us are perfect. We are all fallen, we've all made mistakes, we've all fallen short in some area of our life. But at the same time, we don't want to ignore the warning signs. So how do we navigate this tension? First, we need to define what we're talking about. A red flag by its very nature, think about a red traffic light, it signals danger, it signals stop. And that means that a red flag in your relationship is something that could lead to genuine harm or danger to you or your partner. And that could be emotional, spiritual, or physical. I'm talking about examples of manipulation or abuse, dishonesty, or lack of accountability. Or also in this is, consistent patterns of behavior that just show that someone is not pursuing Christ in their life. And everything I've just listed are things that should not be brushed to the side or ignored. Because although we are called as Christians to have hearts of forgiveness and to forgive our enemy and to, really love and let go, there are things that we have to just be very discerning about that are just objectively bad, objectively harmful. And this is where boundaries come into play, because we are called to love, yes, but love within limits. Because if you just continually allow someone to treat you badly or to hurt you or to hurt themselves, that's actually not loving. But what about those situations where someone has clearly messed up in the past, but they have taken it on board, they've taken accountability and responsibility, and they're actively growing to pursue God, pursue goodness, and they bring this to you and they say, yes, I did mess up. For example, maybe they had children out of wedlock, or maybe they've been through a divorce, or maybe there was adultery in their past, but they bring this information to you as a new changed person, as someone who has, yes, made a mistake, but is taking full responsibility and doesn't want to do that again. They're not living in that current sin anymore. It's something that they did, and that is really where grace and forgiveness come in. When you see someone who really takes accountability for their mistakes and they are genuinely striving to be more Christ-like, and you're not just seeing this in words alone, but in consistent action, that is when there may be space for more grace, more forgiveness on your part, and more, willingness to see, okay, yes, this behavior was a red flag, but I can see the redemption working through them. And here are a few ways that you can practically discern. So firstly, ask yourself and ask the other person, is this a pattern or a one-time mistake? That saying where it's like, hurt me once, shame on you, and then hurt me twice, shame on me. This kind of makes me think of that in the sense of we all mess up, we all make silly mistakes, bad decisions, bad actions, but do we repeat them? Do we continue? Do we make a pattern? And I think that's when you have to see, was this a one-off, or is this something that keeps on occurring? Secondly, does this person take responsibility, or do they blame shift? This is a really important one, because I think this whole victim mentality and blaming everyone else but ourselves is something that is really inherent in our popular culture at the moment, in modern society. And it's really easy to just want to look outside of ourselves and blame everyone but our own actions. And that makes it really difficult, because if you don't take responsibility and accountability, okay, I'm in this bad situation because I've made a bad decision, it makes it really hard for you to actually be able to move forward and to be better. So if this person is really just shifting the blame all the time, that is probably a bad sign. It probably is a red flag. Thirdly, are they actively pursuing growth, or are they just making empty promises? It's one thing for someone to say something to you, to tell you, this is something I've done in the past, but it's another thing to see them actively changing, improving, leaving that past self behind. Because if someone is just making empty promises to you and you're not actually seeing the fruit of that, and you're not seeing the resolution of that promise, then also not a good sign. And then lastly, have they surrendered themselves with accountability and also godly counsel and good counsel? Are they in communication with people in their community? Are they seeking help? Are they praying? What's their spiritual life like? Are they really, looking to the Bible for words of wisdom? Are they, getting their direction straight from God? And are they taking that accountability? And I think if you find someone who's not seeking that kind of godly counsel, it's also a bit of a worry, because really we should be taking every single part of ourselves, the darkest, the deepest, the worst of what we feel feel about ourselves. Those are the corners that we need to bring to God in prayer like every day. Because if we're not doing that, then who are we revealing ourselves to? And who are we hiding? What are we hiding? And I think that's a question if you feel like you're just with someone who's not really taking that accountability or that onus to really go to God with their issues. At the end of the day, dating is a discernment process. And we all know that the fruits of the Holy Spirit are not anxiety, confusion, fear, or anything like that. So if you are feeling, confused, drained, stressed by someone else's actions, that is probably a red flag. But if you're seeing genuine humility, transformation, and alignment with God's heart, then you may be experiencing or witnessing redemption. And that is beautiful. As I said, that's the heart of our Christian faith. So to see it live, to see someone really entering into this redemptive state is just absolutely beautiful. But we have to discern. We have to discern and see the difference between someone who made a mistake and is seeking the Lord, is seeking forgiveness, and who's really trying to move forward with their lives, and someone who's still living in that space. I would really love to hear if you've ever struggled with this balance. As I said, I definitely have, and that's why I was really keen to talk about this idea of red flag versus redemption. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Salt for more dating content from a Christian perspective, diving into, yes, modern dating, but also theology and seeing what God has to say about all of these things and trying to bring that wisdom to the modern day and understand this together. Anyway, as always, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.